Welcome to the Piece of Me podcast, the place to find different ways to bring enjoyment, simplicity, happiness, and of course, more peace into your life. Life gets busy, noisy, and at times it's messy. I'm here to help you clean things up and put peace back in its place. Each episode, I'll share tips, ideas, and fresh perspectives to help you live your best life. Hi, friends. It's Leigh. I'm so glad that you'll be joining me for today's episode, which is all about my very good friend, Kara, who is a mom, a full-time mom, full-time career woman to two young girls. And we're going to talk to her today about what brings her peace and how she finds self-care in a very busy, hectic life and schedule. So welcome, Kara. We're so glad to have you on the podcast. And just kind of, if you would, just tell us a little bit about your situation, how old your kids are. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. I have two girls. One is 11 and one is 4, and I work full time, and so does my husband, and our kids have a very busy, active life with sports, and so I can definitely relate to, trying to find peace in everyday life with children, and so I'm here to share a little bit more about that with you.
Awesome. Now, I don't have my own children, so I actually have two stepchildren, for those of you that are listening, which I have not shared before. So as somebody who has two children of their own, it can't be easy, right? You're balancing a lot of things. You have a lot of probably busy schedules with the kids, a lot of things going on. Let's start with the first question is, how do you stay organized? Like, how do you keep their schedules, your schedule, husband's schedule? How do you keep it all together?
So it's very interesting because I think this is like a battle that everyone has. And this year, my husband and I, we made a goal for ourselves to have a shared family calendar, which I really think does help. And one of the gifts that we got for Christmas was the Amazon show, and we hang it in our kitchen. And it's basically just like a large screen with our schedule. It has other things. It does a lot of other things as well, but for us, we have a family shared calendar, and it shows it's displayed on the screen in our kitchen, and so there's no excuse to what's coming up, what everyone is doing, what activities are coming up, and I really do think that helps us stay organized. Like, you can't say like who's going where and what, because we all know because it's on the schedule. So I think that has definitely helped us stay organized and keep ahead of what's coming up for us in our household.
Yeah, I can completely understand that. Now, you mentioned your husband, and I'm going to just get right to it and dive right in. So how does your husband play an important role in keeping things organized so that your routines run smoothly and hopefully somewhat simply? But what kind of role does he play in keeping all that together with such a busy household?
So I think one of the things I will say is that him and I haven't always had the most traditional schedules when it comes to work. He has just transitioned to like a more regular schedule, which I think has helped us. But one of the things that we do is like we plan our meals on the weekend. So we do a lot of like cooking on Sundays, and that helps us. The other thing that I think helps me is that he has been more active in my daughter's schedule. She is on a travel softball team, and she plays softball sometimes like 5 days a week. And so he has stepped up into the role of like being part of that coaching team, the coach, one of the coaches for the team. And so that helps me because he's running her around, and like I don't have to deal with that, which does help. But I think, obviously just like planning ahead, making our schedules, and cooking on the weekends, and he is very active with our kids, which I think is great.
And that's cool. You mentioned that he's a coach. That's certainly a lot of, I'm sure, of a time commitment. So question for you, a lot of the people or a lot of the women that listen to this podcast are looking for ways for self-care, for balance in their life, to, just make the crazy part of life a little less crazy, a little less hectic, and try to find, that simplistic enjoyment out of it. So what are some ways that you're currently doing to kind of bring some self-care back into your routine when you have so much going on? What are some things you're doing to kind of bring the self-care back into things?
So about 8 months ago, I participated in something called 75 Hard, where you had to work out 2 times a day, and one was indoors and one was outdoors. And through that experience, one of the things that I kind of found that I enjoy a lot is working out outdoors. And so I prioritize like being outside. I know it's winter here in upstate New York, but one of the things I really do like is walking outside. And I will go outside even when it's like it's a blizzard sometimes, and people are like, are you out of your mind? And like, I walk 3 miles a day at my lunch at work. So that's one of the things that I do. I walk every day at lunch at work. I also think like getting up early, it's hard to do, especially when you have little kids, but I think prioritizing that and getting up and getting it done, like I work out indoors at home, I walk at lunch, sometimes I walk my dog at night, even if it's dark, even if it's pitch black, and even if it's snowing, I do it. And I think that makes me feel better. The other thing, you talk about self-care and obviously prioritizing wellness. I'm outside of working out and eating healthy. I think, getting massages and doing that and participating with girlfriends is really important. And so I do try to like get to the spa and get my toes done and get massages, because I think that is important for females to feel good and just to feel like they are valued.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you said with that when it comes to, when you're already at work, you're already in your work day, but you find a way to prioritize your own health and wellness by walking on your lunch break. And that's a really cool thing, because you're just taking the situation you're already given and you're making the most of it. So that was a really good tip. And of course, if you have a pet at home, that's a really great way too, to get outside, get that fresh air, no matter what the weather is. Now, going back to the comment you said earlier, you said you have a husband who is very much involved in your children's lives, in the household situation. Now, when it comes to self-care, does he even know what that means? And if you do need some time to yourself, how do you communicate that to him so that he understands, okay, Kara needs some time, I'm cool with it? What does that look like in your household?
I don't think it's as easy as like, oh, hi, I need self-care, and like, you need to back off and like give me some time and like take the kids and all that. Unfortunately, and I think this is like something that a lot of women struggle with, I don't think that they are able to communicate this to their male spouse. My husband is wonderful and he understands a lot of things, but he doesn't necessarily get it, because things for him like don't really change. He goes to work, he comes home, like but for women, it's like you're up, you're making lunches, you're doing this and that and the other thing. And so I think for him, it's like, it's just not like the only way for it to happen in our household is for me to say like, look, I am doing X. And part of that is like, I scheduled it on our family calendar. Like, here it is in black and white. Here's a day that I'm doing it. And I tell him in advance. He doesn't necessarily understand it, and that's okay. But I am doing it, and that's it. Like, I don't know how else to explain it, because I don't think men always understand what the needs are, or what the implications are for women, and how they feel mentally and emotionally, and taking care of the family household. And so I think it is important, even if the male doesn't necessarily understand, which is the case in my household.
And I love that you say that, because I think you're right. Men and women sometimes don't always understand each other's perspectives or what their needs are at different times. And I think we all communicate differently, but I like that you are just scheduling it and you're saying, hey, this is what I need. This is what's happening. And this is kind of where, each one of us has to help out so that those things happen for you. So that's a really good tip, I think, for the listeners, that just go ahead and schedule what you need so that it happens for you. And it's a thing that doesn't get skipped, more or less. So another question for you is, for those moms who are listening, who maybe they're working full-time jobs, maybe they're working part-time jobs, maybe they're just, maybe not just, but maybe they're a full-time stay-at-home mom and they're balancing so many things right now. And maybe they don't feel like the word self-care is even in their vocabulary at this point. What advice, suggestions, tips might you have for other moms who are they're feeling tired, they're feeling worn out? Maybe they have a partner who can help, maybe they don't. But how would you talk to other moms about trying to find ways to make their lives more simple, get that peace back in their life, and find the enjoyment that maybe seems to be a bit gone? That's kind of a loaded question, but, and putting you on the spot, what would be some tips for the other moms?
So again, like I go back to, the time when I was doing 75 hard, because I think like people aren't like actively seeking outdoor workouts. And I don't even mean like you have to work out, and go crazy, but I think walking outside, taking 20 minutes for yourself, taking 5 minutes for yourself, whatever you have, if your partner or spouse is able to watch the children while you do that, you say like, hey, I just want to take a little break for myself. I'm going to go for a walk. You can turn on a podcast. You can turn on a 5-minute meditation. I think reading is something that can be enjoyed by a lot. If you have young children, it's hard to do. My children are at the age where they're not napping. And I know that's like a thing, like some kids nap and they're, I talk to other moms and they're like, oh, my kid's napping and they're 5 years old. Like, well, I'm very happy for you, but that's not the case in my household. So what can I do? Well, you know what? Hey, to my daughter, I'm like, you know what? It's not nap time, but it's quiet time. So like, can you go to your room? Like, here's a book, here's a puzzle, here's an activity to do. Mommy's going to do this while you do this. And I think just setting up your child with that activity during that time so that you can provide yourself with that space to do what you need to do, whether it's listen to a podcast, read a book, close your eyes for 10 minutes, get in a short workout, go for a walk outside, whatever it is. I think, even short spurts can provide that peace that you're looking for. And I think that I would suggest that if possible for you.
I love that. And I really especially like how you're kind of setting that expectation with the children that even if, like you said, they might not be napping, right? You might be at that age where naps are a thing of history, right? So, but saying to your child, hey, you know what? I need some time. So, go make yourself busy, go find an activity to play with so that I can have that downtime is a really great way to schedule in when you have your children, but you're scheduling it in with the circumstances that you have, right? You're busy with the kids, but you need a little bit of time at any time. And I think that's a really good solution. So we're gonna kind of recap this kind of short interview, but I wanted to share that Kara and I have known each other for about 15 years now, which is kind of crazy. We've had a lot of great times together, and when we first met, we both were not married. Neither one of us had children. And now our situations obviously look a bit different over that decade and a half. So I'm curious, and I'm going to put her on the spot here to know if her peace or how she finds enjoyment has changed much in 15 years. Does it look any different then as it does now? And if it does, how so? So Kara, when it comes to that self-care and how you're bringing that peace back in your life, does it look any different now than it did back then?
I don't think so. I just think the time that I have for myself is less. So I still enjoy the same things that I did, 15 plus years ago. I still enjoy working out. I still enjoy being with friends and family. But I do think that obviously my time is more limited now with having children and having their activities and schedule. And so I think for me, it's more prioritizing the things that are important to me and scheduling it just like you would anything else. Like if your kid has an activity, well, that's important, and so is time for yourself. And so I think just making those schedules in advance will really help to provide that peace in your household.
Yeah, absolutely. And I heard a saying once, which is that everybody is given the same 24 hours in a day. And how we use that is really up to us. CEOs of a company, business owners versus, people who might have a little extra time on their hands. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. So like Kara said, it's really prioritizing what's going on in your household, but also making the priority yourself at times too. So, and also Kara mentioned something about that 75-day hard, which is a fitness challenge, a very strict one, very hard. She really worked very hard at that and accomplished that. So it sounds like almost finding projects for yourself and setting goals, something to work towards and focus on was something that helped her. So Kara, any last words for our listeners? Anything maybe I haven't asked you that you would like to share from your journey? Of self-development and growth and again, trying to find the calm in a busy world. Any words of of wisdom.
Absolutely. So first of all, A, thank you for having me. And B, I also, you hear like they talk about when you're on an airplane and you're going down and you put your oxygen mask on first. I think that parents need to, see that, do that, and believe that, because you cannot help somebody else unless you're taking care of yourself. And so make sure that you schedule that time and, prioritize your well-being, because you cannot successfully raise your children and be a good spouse and partner and friend and daughter and family member and loved one if you're not taking care of yourself. And so make sure you do those things to be the best that you can be.
Absolutely. As they say, you can't pour from an empty cup. And isn't that the truth? So, Kara, thank you so much for joining us today on this episode. And it's so great to get the perspective of a full-time career woman and a full-time mom and a full-time wife. So thank you so much for joining us. And again, if this episode was helpful to you, please feel free and share this with a friend. And I look forward to talking with you all on the next episode. So talk to you soon. Okay, friends, before you go, please rate this show. Your 5-star rating allows this show to reach more listeners just like you who could benefit from the topics being discussed. I appreciate you joining me. Follow the Piece of Me podcast on Instagram and stay connected.